China already has a bunch of humanoid robots. So why is this Atlas robot from CES 2026 suddenly everywhere? And what makes it so special? In this video, we'll break down what actually makes Atlas different, why people are saying this is a shift from a can we build it to a can we rely on it, and how to make sense of future robot headlines without drowning in buzzwords or needing an engineering degree. Let's start with the basics. When people say humanoid robot, it's easy to picture a metal person from a certain space movie. But in real workplaces, a humanoid robot is simply a machine that roughly shares our shape. Two arms, two legs, and a body that can move through spaces built for humans. Think about doors and staircases, shelves, and tools. Factories and warehouses were designed around human bodies, not around machines. So wouldn't it be simpler to, instead of rebuilding every building from scratch, to start exploring robots that can move through the same doors, climb the same steps, and reach the same shelves that we already use today? And of course, it's a tool. So think about it as follows. If a forklift is a power tool with wheels, a humanoid robot is a power tool with legs. Now here's the confusing part. We've already had robots in factories for decades, so why are companies suddenly obsessing with ones that look like us? To understand what's really going on, we need to look at the problems real workplaces are facing today. Warehouses and factories specifically are under a lot of pressure. Orders change all the time. Products come and go quickly, and layouts are tweaked. New lines are added, and nothing stays still for long. On top of that, many tasks are physically demanding and repetitive. People get tired, they get injured. Night shifts and weekend shifts are hard to fill. And safety is always a concern, especially in busy environments with heavy equipment. Now, traditional industrial robots are incredible at what they do. They are very precise and very fast and very strong. But they usually sit in one place, inside a cage or behind a safety barrier, doing one specific task over and over again. If you want that robot to do something new or to work in a different spot, it can take a lot of time and money to reprogram it, move it, and rebuild the safety systems all around it. Those robots are like specialists, amazing in a fixed role, but not very flexible when the world around them keeps changing. Humanoid robots, like Atlas on the other hand, are not bolted to the floor. They can move through a factory or a warehouse the way a person would. In theory, they can work in places that were never designed for robots in the first place. So the real goal here wasn't to show off a new cool gadget. The goal was to create a type of robot that can step into messy, constantly changing environments and take on some of the things that are repetitive or the risky tasks that humans are currently doing. These robots are not supernatural. What makes them interesting is that they are finally being designed to fit into our world, instead of forcing us to redesign the entire factory around them. Okay, so with that big picture in mind, let's talk about what makes this Atlas robot at the CES 2026 a few weeks ago feel like a turning point for a lot of people. We're going to focus on three things that actually matter for beginners: the shape, the battery swapping, and autonomy. First, the shape. Atlas has a roughly human-like body. Again, because most factories and warehouses are already built around human bodies. Door widths, stair heights, shelf positions, and even tool handles are set up for human workers. If you bring a robot that shares that general form, You don't have to rip out every staircase and rebuild every doorway. The robot will try to fit into the world we already have. That's a big deal for companies that cannot just pause everything and rebuild a site from scratch. Second, battery swapping. In many demos, the power system looks like a side detail, but in the real world, it's critical. Instead of plugging in a robot and waiting for it to charge, the idea is that someone, or the robot itself, can swap the battery, just like changing the battery on your cordless drill. The robot gets back to work while the empty battery charges off to the side. It doesn't sound glamorous, but this is how you keep a robot working through long shifts without huge pauses. For factories and warehouses, that continuous uptime is more exciting than any flashy demo move. Third is autonomy. Older robots, and by old I mean those on the production lines today that make our cars and appliances, often require extremely detailed instructions for every single movement. Today, engineers must script precisely what the robot should and should not do. Robots like Atlas are moving towards something slightly different. Instead of telling the robot every tiny step, people want to give it clearer tasks and goals. For example, pick these parts from this area in this order and bring them to that station. The robot still has many limits, but it can start to figure out some of the exact motions on its own. In short, old robots were told how to move. Newer robots are told what needs to be done. It doesn't make the Atlas robot smart in a human way, but it does make it more flexible in real-world workplaces. Interestingly, did you notice how Atlas moved so nicely and smoothly during the CES show? Well, during the main show event, a lot of what you saw Atlas doing was still being controlled or tightly choreographed behind the scenes by a human. But don't focus on that bit. Think of this moment as the point we stop asking, can we build a robot like this? And start asking, can we trust a robot like this to show up every day and not break the production line? Boston Dynamics, Hyundai, with Google AI certainly think so. To be completely honest, and you probably know this already, as you've scrolled through news and other posts, but Atlas is not the only serious humanoid robot out there. Companies from China, Korea, and others have been building impressive humanoid robots for years now. Some of them look just as advanced or even more advanced in short demo videos. So what's the difference? Well, the big story with Atlas is not that it's the first or only robot of its kind. The big story is about reliability and real deployment. It's about robots that can run every day in real factories, around real workers, without constant breakdowns. Take, for example, one of the boring but crucial jobs in factories, parts sequencing. Imagine a robot that doesn't just carry boxes randomly, but brings the right parts to the right person at the right time on the assembly line so that the whole factory flows better. That's the kind of practical, day-to-day job companies are aiming for. And when you hear people talk about 2028 in this context, they're not talking about robots in every home. They're talking about a realistic target for seeing more of these humanoid-type robots in real factory roles with real responsibilities. So the real headline is shifting from "look what this robot can do once" to "look what this robot can do every single day without falling apart." That's a very different standard, and it's the one that actually matters for workplaces. Yes, we've heard this will change everything overnight before, with computers, the internet, and smartphones. So let's talk about what this does not mean. This does not mean human jobs are suddenly gone next year or in 2028. Humanoid robots like Atlas are aimed at physical, repetitive, and often risky tasks in factories and warehouses, not at replacing every job. I cover this exact point in my video on AI called AI Dangers Nobody Warns You About. So do check it out next. Second, this does not mean a robot like Atlas is about to walk into normal homes or small offices. These machines are expensive, complex, and still in the early stages of real-world use. They're far from being everyday household products. And third, this does not mean these robots think like humans or have feelings or intentions. They follow software, rules, and training. They can be powerful, but they are tools, not people. Finally, this does not mean they are cheap or about to be everywhere overnight. Rolling out this kind of technology takes years of testing, investment, and careful planning. If you remember just one thing from this part, remember this. These robots are tools in a toolbox, not characters in a movie. They might change certain kinds of work, but they are not a sudden wave that instantly replaces everyone. Let's quickly recap what you now know about Atlas and humanoid robots in real workplaces. First, they exist in a human-shaped world so they can move through the buildings we already have today, instead of needing a totally new custom space. Second, the real story is reliability and day-to-day work. Battery swapping, more autonomy, and tasks like parts sequencing are all about keeping factories running smoothly, not about putting on a show. Third, this is a shift from one-off demo videos to robots that companies hope to trust in the years leading up to 2028 and beyond. That does not mean robots in every home. It does not mean everyone's job is going to disappear overnight. So, when you see the next big robot headline, here's a simple way to stay calm and informed. Ask yourself 3 questions. What kind of environment is this robot built for? What real job is it doing there? And can it do that job every day, not just once for a camera? If you can answer those 3 questions, you'll already understand more than most people reading the headline. If this video helped you feel a bit more grounded about humanoid robots, consider sticking around on this channel. The whole idea here is I'm new to this, so please explain it like a normal person. This applies to all kinds of techie topics. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.